Hey, good morning to you. Thank you for tuning in. I think we need to play our theme tune, don't we? So let's do that. I'll be right back after this.
Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, Alegria Munson here with Good Morning Portugal show live stream and podcast live this morning from Herdade Do Meio. Oh, Matty, you're such a stickler for timing. Who doesn't like a bit of delay first thing in the morning? Me, lol. You're so German, Matty. We are live from Herdade Do Meio. We're a few minutes late, but I mean, it's a technological feat that we're here at all. It's amazing. You got out the car then? Yes, I did. Are you hearing us loud and clear? We need you as our executive producers all around the world this morning as we come live from this exciting project south of the river. I drove from the Silver Coast, set off at about 5:30 this morning from the Silver Coast. It was dark. It was foggy. It was scary, actually. And then the light came. And by the time I got to Lisbon, I feel a song coming on. By the time I got to Lisbon, the sun was rising to my left as I crossed the 25 de Abril Bridge, Cristo Rei ahead of me, and coming south of the river here to the wonderful Herdade Do Meio, which we'll hear more about from the man himself, the founder of this project. Bobby O'Reilly will be with us in a little while. So that's great to hear, looking great. And perfectly loud and clear. That's fantastic. I'm sure T-Duck will have some production input as well. He also has content input, and were the three wise men, two of the three wise men were in early this morning, T-Duck and Coach Turner. Oh, and Deagle. It's four wise men. It's a little bit of a twist on the original idea. And somebody new here, Jay Clark. Is it better to seek residency in Portugal with a British passport or an American one? Good question. On Ask Anything About Portugal Wednesday, which is a bit of a special because we've got our live set up here in Herdade Do Meio, but very happy to have you ask questions and answer them for you. That's a great question. And we'll let our colleagues and community in the chat address that, because there are people here with Portuguese residency who've come in from the British passport and American passport avenue or approach or origination. So we'll come back to that. Thank you, Joy Clark, for being here this morning. Who else is here today before we come back to the wise men and their council? Matty, Andy Klein and Aveiro. We've got Feel Good Astrology, of course, tuned in. Sounds and looks great. Production input from T-Duck as well. So please spread the word that we are live from south of the river here in Portugal, in Lisbon. It's a beautiful day, absolutely beautiful day. And since I was last here on the site, you're seeing the long shot, the flags there. You can see that it's a very nice, still, beautiful day. The flags just resting, not too much of a breeze this morning. And work has begun. Beyond that fence, I can see the groundwork, the drainage is going in here. And that's how it is, isn't it, with building projects? You know, nothing seems to be happening, although it is, but not a lot seems to be happening because you're not seeing any houses yet. And then suddenly one day all the houses start getting built and it all happens very quickly. So really excited about being back here at that stage of the project as well as being here today to talk about how it's going for Bobby and the team here at Herdade Do Meio. So let's see what's going on in the chat this morning. Coach Turner was in at 7 minutes past 7. Good man. Bon dia, Gumpers. It's hump day. Mildish weather here today in the UK. So another walk beckons, mainly for the coffee at the end of it. Then lots of odd jobs to do. Apparently, there's a list. Yes, that's a really good way of keeping fit, isn't it? The DIY list. God Squad tip of the day. Then the third of my coaching heroes Let's get this onto the screen. Third of my coaching heroes this week is less well known, but in his way equally successful. I've known John Denford for over 30 years and coached with him for over 20. Let's find out more about John then. He's worked with some of Great Britain's top women sprinters in their younger days, including medalists at the major championships. John has an uncanny ability to extract the best from his athletes. What's his secret? I hear you ask. I'm glad you did, because he's instinctively a builder of understanding with his coachees, with the athletes, helping them through their difficult adolescent years. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't enough becoming an adult, they're becoming potential champions as well, champion athletes. So he works with them in their difficult adolescent years, probably shows them a little bit of understanding and instilling technique and discipline that lasts a lifetime. Great stuff. That will be John Denford, I believe. Is that right? Yes, John Denford, Denford. Thank you, Coach Turner. Many of these coachees, athletes, many of these girls come from single-parent homes, and John provides a great role model for them. He is kind, supportive, and most importantly, honest. What a fantastic! He's like the sort of person who turns up on that show, This Is Your Life, who made a major impact in people's teenage years. It is this honesty that makes the difference, I believe, and to many of the girls he has coached, he has been transformative. So how can we be more honest with ourselves? Oh, I see what you did there, Coach Turner. Yes, bit of radical honesty then on the show this morning. Look at that, sun's coming through and reflecting off the window behind us in this fantastic studio. Cheers, T-Duck, by the way, for making this possible. Amazing setup. 2 cameras. We're running off a battery pack. It's funny because this is a sustainable development here, flagship sustainable development. And what better way to broadcast from here than with an off-grid setup? We are not connected to the grid. We are coming completely off-grid to you this morning. So that's a bit of a milestone in broadcasting as well, I think, certainly for us. So honesty then is, funnily enough, the God Squad tip of the day. How can we be more honest with ourselves? And we can extend that to each other, can't we? Perhaps you can find a friend that you trust to help. Over the next couple of days, I'll explore what I've learned from these remarkable people and how to apply it to the God Squad principles. So are you suggesting then that we buddy up with somebody who'll give us direct and honest feedback? It could go many ways, but it just sounds like a great idea. I do like a bit of radical honesty. Prefer to give it rather than receive it. But however, I think it is a 50-50 matter if you're going to do a radical honesty in any serious way. You've got to be able to take it as well as give it. So how about that? Find a buddy. If you're not lucky enough to have one of those already, an honest mentor, guide, friend in your life. If you don't feel like you've got one of those or haven't spoken to them for a while, maybe reinvigorate that relationship, and we'll have Coach Turner following up with what you might talk about with that person. We've also got Benjamin Stubbs coming back on next Monday. He's the happiness boot camp guy. We're actually going to, he's very kindly offered to give us 7 days of his 30-day boot camp. We'll start that next week as well. So much going on, so many wonderful gifts for the community here. Good morning to those of you who've just joined us. Bon dia alegria gumpers from T-Duck, and I'm only here for the first part today. Well, I'm glad you're here, and thank you for your production input and, as I say, making this possible, T-Duck. Deep thought then from Aldous Huxley. Let's get into some deep thinking, shall we? So long as I'll have a little cough. Bear with me a moment. There you go. It's all this fresh air. Outside broadcasting. So the deep thought today then, so long as men worship the Caesars and Napoleons. Oh my goodness, is this a carry on from like a takeaway from the last couple of Iberian FM phone-ins talking about royalty and politicians? So long as men worship the Caesars and Napoleons, Caesars and Napoleons will duly rise and make them miserable. Well, that's cheered us right up, but it's sometimes the truth hurts. Talking of having honest buddies, there's your honest buddy, Aldous Huxley, right there. Portuguese saying of the day, then, bit self-conscious. We're outside broadcasting, and there are Portuguese people within earshot. Entre marido e mulher não se mete a colher. Between husband and wife, you don't mess with the spoon. Well. What they do in the privacy of their own kitchen is their business. But I think that's I think that the translation of that is between husband and wife. You don't get involved. Leave the stirring to those two. That's great. Love that. Entre marido e mulher não se mete a colher. Beautiful Portuguese saying of the day. Quem sabia, Portugal is one of the few countries in the Western world where parents are not free to name their children as they please. This is fantastic. This is the Portuguese name list, isn't it, that we're talking about today? As a rule, Portuguese parents will choose traditional names, but if in doubt, before naming a child, they need to consult the 80-page long list of approved and rejected names. I doubt there's a T duck on there. There may well be a Carlos. Bobby, I'm not sure about. Yes, very interesting, isn't it? That there is an 80-page long document of approved, and rejected names. So are you not allowed to choose from the last few pages with which are the rejected names? That's interesting. The list tells which names parents can or cannot name their children. There are 2,600. Oh, okay. There's quite a big list. 2,600 names on the reject list. As far as tradition, the law favors names that are traditionally Portuguese. Superb. I'm just checking, making sure everything's all right on the broadcast. And we've got Tabitha. Oh, thanks for that heads up. You're with us until your slow cooker bleeps. Isn't it lovely, the insight we get into people's personal lives here? João de Norte is in. Are you feeling better, João de Norte? I hope you had a comfortable night in San Martino de Porto, the wonderful Storytellers Hotel. We got Matty in, of course. Jacqueline Branco is here. Portugal's Sun in Cape Town, South Africa. And Joy Clark is from, well, would you believe it? And I'll say this correctly, I hope. Peníscola, Spain, an hour north of Valencia. Superb. We have talked quite a lot about Peníscola just recently. Okay, superb stuff. Please, if you're watching, do say who you are, where you are, and how it's going for you this morning. Tell us what's good about your morning, of course, on here on the Good Morning Portugal show. Coming to you live this morning from Herdade Do Meio, as you can see in the long shot there. Very smart looking car. Looks great, doesn't it? Cheers, Deagle. Maybe you can pop in. One of the great claims of Herdade Do Meio is that you can be in the capital, and you can get to the other side of the water in 15-20 minutes from the local railway station. Even driving this morning, I think I got here in 15 or 20 minutes, coming north to south. Very handy for all the. I mean, as I look around me, and you can see beyond the conifers, which they look like they need a little bit of water. The conifers. I'll have to chat to Bobby about that. Beyond the conifers of the marketing suite here, you'll see trees in the distance, and this side of the water does feel very, very much more rural, obviously, than there in the town, in the city in Lisbon. Within 20 minutes, you just feel like you're in the countryside in this area, in this locality. But you can also jump on a train, get in a car, head over to the other side of the water, and experience all that the buzz of Lisbon life. And I forget just how cool and buzzy Lisbon is. And I got a sense of it this morning as I was driving through the city. It was just so great. I need to get out more, that's for sure. So cheers, Deagle, for that feedback. Let's go back to this Portuguese names list then. And we got dad jokes too. I have to share those with Bobby this morning. I think he likes a few of those. So the names, where do we get to? Naming a child. The list tells which names parents can or cannot name their children. So we've got 2,600 on the list. Oh, I think the TV crews will be arriving here soon. It's a media day here at Herdade Do Meio. Naming a child with a diminutive is also not allowed. So I can't be Carlitos or Carlinho. For instance, Joanna is okay, but not Joaninha. So that would be for the parents and grandparents and friends to use that rather nice diminutive and affectionate turn of phrase or adaptation of the name. Another rule is that names must be gender explicit. Gender neutral names are not allowed. Interesting. Portugal. Wow. I wonder what's happening in the hotbeds of academia when it comes to that concept here in Portugal. Where the most progressive and radical thoughts about these things might be taking place. That would be quite a challenge, wouldn't it? To some hearts and minds at the moment. So we've got the dad jokes. Very good. T Duck, thank you for those. And bon dia, Carl, from Deagle in Belfast. Beautiful sunny Belfast this morning. I think you've got the UK Prime Minister over there, haven't you? 6 degrees in Belfast, should easily go up to 10 come lunchtime. Always a weather warning. An icy blast to hit Ireland and UK Sunday into Monday. Back to single digits then. Thank you for that question. Is it better? I'll ask Bobby that actually, and I'll add my 2 penneth with that as well. I wonder what the Portuguese phrase is for 2 penneth. Bon dia, alegria a todos. Enjoy it when I can pop in. Been a crazy week, but all good. Things are taking shape, says the Portugal Sun. Matty with a weather report from Pombal. Sane soul this morning. Bon dia, alegria a todos, the Pombal. And good morning, everyone, from Andy Klein in Aveiro. Carl's doing a remote broadcast this morning. There may be a bit of a delay in the start time. Oh, I see. Okay. That was before the show even started. Fantastic. Well done, Carl, says Matty, being almost on time on a remote location that is not around the corner. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Is that a jacket you're wearing, or you're just pleased to see me, says Coach Turner. Very smart. Well, I thought I'd make you wait till you see Bobby. He's got a great suit on this morning, but that's for his later TV appearance today. Did you have to put pants on today, Cole? Yes, I did. Well, allegedly. You don't know that for sure, do you? But you might be able to see from the face of Bobby as he approaches the outside studio here whether I've got trousers on or not. Building projects can be very frustrating. That's what we're looking at here. Half the cost goes into the ground with very little to show. Yes, I might share that with Bobby this morning. And they usually are twice the agreed budget. Yep, exactly. Thumbs up. Jacqueline Branco, good morning. Cannot stay. Have a wonderful day. Good to see you, Jacqueline. Thanks for popping in. Bon dia, Gumpers. We're celebrating our successful, self appointment by treating ourselves to the lovely Storytellers Palace in the city centre of San Martino de Porto. It's city centre. Interesting choice of phrase there. It's like a village, isn't it? San Martino de Porto. See you there, some of you, for the meetup. Picking up my in-laws from the airport later, and I'll be heading to the meetup if you're still straggling and hanging on in there. Bobby, do you want to come and join us? Bobby's getting ready for a major media event here today. I think here he comes onto the screen now. Great to see you, Bobby. I'm not able to give you a nice big round of applause as we often do when we're in the home studio, but people are doing that at home, rest assured.
How you doing?
Very good. Great to see you.
You too, buddy. You too. Thanks for coming down today.
Oh, it's great. It's really lovely to be here. That journey was fantastic. Is it a bit blinding in the sun there? Are you okay?
The sun just caught me nicely there, yeah.
You're beautifully lit, I've got to say. You look great. So how's it going here? Herdade Do Meio, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, it's going well. As I said, today we have a media event, basically. We've invited some journalists from different parts, whether it's real estate and also from national media,
cool.
Local media as well. So they're coming down. So we have a press release that's going out today.
Yeah.
And then there'll be sort of a presentation on the company.
Yeah.
And then the presentation on the Herdade itself. And then on the other projects that we'll be launching later on in the year.
Oh, do we get a bit of a scoop on some of the projects that you're sharing later on in the year?
Yeah, no problem. It's right now, so it's mainly about the Herdade and really the whole concept around Herdade Do Meio. And it's going to carry forward into the new projects. So we've submitted our planning for 2 new projects launching in the side of, well, outside Aroeira, or the Herdade Aroeira.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have 13 villas on one site and 7,800 square meters, again, with the sustainability being a big part of what we're doing there, with the solar energy, etc., and so on. And then we have 8 more villas launching at the same time on the Avenida do Mar, which is the road down to the beach.
Yeah, that's a good location, isn't it?
It's a really location,
very nice. So I was going to ask you, when you're saying you're sort of carrying on the principles of the Herdade Do Meio here, it's about sustainability. Is that the key concept?
That and, how would you say, inclusion.
Okay.
Basically, as we said, we're trying to build communities and not just houses, and also to build smart homes, that not just for the, how to say that, the domotic side of it, or sort of for the automatic side of it, but also to make life easier and more comfortable.
Yeah, okay.
And that's really what we're trying to do there.
Love that. So two key principles, community and sustainability.
Exactly.
Well, they're intertwined, really, aren't they? Yeah,
absolutely. Like if you see here in the Herdade, I know it's not easy for everyone else to see it here, but you're welcome to come down and see it, is that we have an 11-hectare site here, which we're going to build 70 villas on. And then also we're putting 6 paddle courts, a multi-court. There'll be a gym, a restaurant, bar, etc., and so on. But it's for everybody. And also you'll have 2 playgrounds and a park and so on. Then we're doing a bike track that'll go directly to the train. And
Fantastic.
also the plan from here is that the bicycle track will actually go to the beach. As far as the Fontatelia.
Incredible.
No, we're not doing that. The council's doing that. Seychelles are doing that.
Well, it's the
So-
least they can do.
But-
I might be able to. Well, you can see the houses on the other side of the
Yeah.
road with the shot there.
Yeah.
So from their point of view, they could be forgiven for thinking, oh, as a housing estate going up on the other side of development, it's going to be gated. But quite the opposite. They're
Yeah.
going to be included, aren't they? This is going to be a massive upgrade for their for amenities and for their neighbourhood.
Absolutely. Like it gives. We were even yesterday. We were talking with the mayor about the different things that we're bringing to the community itself, because it's not a private thing. It's not for people who only live here. It's for everyone who's in the whole Consuelo, as they say here.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, so
yeah.
for in the parish.
Yep.
So like, and there's a lot of people live around this area. So it's adding to the amenities that are already here.
Yeah.
Like Seychelles itself is a fantastic place to live. And I think this site here being next to the train station, 5 minutes from the train, and then also 10 minutes to the beach, and you have everything else around you. So I think it adds an awful lot to what's already here.
Mm.
So
Well, the mayor must be excited then.
yeah, they're very, very happy. I went to last night to just show him the press release that and he was very happy with it, and he was very happy with what we were doing, but also our further plans into Seychelles as well. So we're looking at more sites at the moment in I can never say it right, Fernafairu.
That'll do.
People know where that is, that know
Yes.
that know. So we're looking at a couple of sites there, but also a couple of larger sites in Seychelles itself as well.
Right.
So as a company, we're committed to the Almada Seychelles area, South Bank.
Understood.
We believe that it's where the future is, if you like, for
Agree.
what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And with the existing amenities that are here and with the access into the city, like, it's a fantastic location, and the price points here are still mainly affordable. You know, for people who are working in Lisbon, that want that extra bit of space and that access. This is a fantastic place.
Well, we've said it before, haven't we? I mean, what took everyone so long? You've seen this potential, haven't you, ever since you set foot on this side of the water?
I think actually it's a bit like, you know, when you go on holidays to someplace,
Yeah.
and the people who live there don't realize how good the place is
True.
until they, you know, someone else brings their attention to it.
Yeah.
I think as strangers, as we say, as foreigners here,
Yeah.
we probably see it probably a little bit easier than people who are living with it under their nose, you know.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and yeah, maybe that's sometimes what it takes is the tourist view, if you like.
Yeah.
The what's it called, the innocent abroad.
Yeah.
To see it afresh and then represent it back to people. What does it feel like, Bobby, to be here? Here we are at the Herdade Do Meio marketing suite. It's a glorious day. It's often like this here, though, to be fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially now it's spring. And to look out across this landscape here, the point has been made that building projects can be very frustrating. Half the cost goes into the ground with very little to show. That's where we're at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of groundwork going on, expensive groundwork.
Yeah.
But how does it feel to be looking out across this with the vision that you've got?
Well, it feels great, to be honest with you. We're making something happen here.
Yeah.
And we're creating something that is going to be here probably long after I'm gone. I hope so anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But we're creating something that we hope that you have 70 families who will grow up here and enjoy, and their kids eventually as well, hopefully grow up in this area as well. So no, it's great to see it, and it's great to be part of such a project. It's not just me. We have a big team of people who's behind this, and everything from investors to professional project managers, architects. So it's a big team that's been a part of all this. And actually, it's been great to be part of that group and to learn so much as well from these guys that are bringing so much experience into such a project that will carry forward into the next projects.
Incredible. You're getting a shout out from Francis in Cape Town, South Africa. You been there?
I have.
Of course you have.
Cape Town.
Well, he's coming here. He's going to live in Porto, in a little while. So hey there, Bobby from Francis. How'd you like it over there in South Africa?
Amazing. I loved it.
I
Great
can
wine.
imagine you're tempted to do developments all over the world in these amazing places, but here you are in Seychelles. You're a thought occurred to me that there might be an O'Reilly Avenue here as part of this. You know, you were saying this will be here long after I'm gone. That's how sometimes the developers are remembered, isn't it? Can you imagine that? What would you like? Rua de Bobby O'Reilly?
No, actually, it was very funny here. You know the way they pronounce their R's is like a H. Like
Yes.
So I'm not the tallest person in the world, and my proper Christian name is Robert, so they were calling me Hobbit.
Hobbit.
So it's Hobbit O'Reilly.
Well, I think Hua de Hobbit O'Reilly would be pretty good in the future.
I thought they were
as a
calling
way
me a
of-
hobbit, as in like a little hobbit
You
from
st-
Hobbiton, you know.
Yes. Awkward moments at the city council. Oh, fantastic! Well, good to see you, Francis. We look like a couple of sports pundits, apparently, here in our jackets. But you dressed up for the telly, right? It's,
Yeah.
You know, everything from the industry press. Obviously, the real estate industry are going to be interested in what you're doing here with your community and sustainability principles and ethics. But it looks like the national TV are coming as well today.
Yeah. I don't know exactly who's all. I don't know them all, to be honest with you.
Right.
But yeah, there's national TV as well coming.
It's fantastic. So a good day ahead. Thank you for fitting us in.
Thanks for coming down.
Early on in the day. Let's see what's going on. Oh, we had a question earlier on. You might have a view on this. Before we talk a little bit more about the politics, because I think we should do that when we get
It's always
together.
dangerous.
Yes, it is a bit, but I don't think we'll be able to resist it. The British, which is the best way to come into Portugal, British or American passports? They're both
It's the
fairly
same.
straightforward, aren't
It's
they?
more or less the
D7,
same now. Exactly, D7. If you want to live here as a D7, is the easiest way.
Yeah.
Actually, you can still get in under the golden visa. You probably saw that there's an extension.
Really?
A
A little bit of an evolution of the golden visa.
Well, basically, there was a bit of a clarification, you know. So, I think realistically, I think if people still want to get in up until it'll probably be about mid-June or something like this, where the cutoff will be. So, really, what has to happen is it still has to be discussed, debated in Parliament, and then it has to go to the constitutional courts to see that it's constitutional. And then after that, it needs to go to the president, and he's a clever guy himself, so he might not very like what he sees as well, and could send it back if he doesn't like it, and then he has to sign off it, and then it even has to be published in the Gazette. So until that happens, it's still law, and they still have
like
to
a
accept.
local paper, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but-
it is.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the evolution and extension of the
platinum.
golden visa, which is the platinum visa. Should we mention it briefly? And that was clearly, folks, an April Fool's joke. We thought, I mean, by the time you got to lifetime supply of pastel de natas, it would be fairly straightforward. But there are still people asking about the platinum visa on there.
Yeah, it went a little bit crazy. It was a joke, and I thought it was a very funny joke.
Yeah, me too.
And but
The date was a giveaway.
I think we upset one or two people.
It's true.
But I don't care, to be honest.
Well, I was just about to ask you, should we apologize? I
No.
think
If you can't take a joke, you know,
yes, fair enough.
especially on April Fool's Day.
Yeah. That if you can't have a joke on April Fool's Day, when can you? Yeah, that'd be a massive sense of humour failure. But maybe, you know, people took it so seriously. The idea's got legs, and even within the corridors of power, they're even discussing it as a possibility.
Oh, I think they're discussing everything right now. They're grasping at straws now,
That's
really.
true. That's true. So let's move on to that then. You know, we've talked about this. We've approached this from a number of angles.
Yeah.
You've referred to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Mais Habitation, the housing crisis, that is the governmental name for it. You know, more housing. There is clearly a housing crisis in Portugal. Nobody would deny that.
Yeah.
You've kind of reframed it as a planning and political crisis more than a housing one. Is that right?
Yeah, I think there's been a failure of the system for many, many years with regards to how things are. There's so much bureaucracy in the middle of everything, and each what you have happen is that you might apply for one particular department today, and that's not just about housing. This is actually even going across nearly all departments.
Yeah.
The person changes a job next month, and whoever was working on your file, whatever they had done before, it's not a seamless sort of pass over to the next person and so on. So like it's just there's a failure in I would say the bureaucracy side of it, and I think they're understaffed as well. To be honest with you, I don't believe there's enough people to take care of the volume of work that's required because of the system that they have. It's just too much.
Right.
And from a contractor or from a developer point of view, it's 3 to 5 years typically to get planning on projects. And I understand.
Sorry, how long?
Yeah, 3 to 5 years.
Right. Okay.
Like
Which is
our
not helpful,
experiences-
is it? And if we're talking about the white heat of progress and foreign investment, that's a big turnoff, isn't it?
Yeah, really, where the value now is in projects that have planning, because it takes out that big question of how long. I don't know if you're aware, but every time you ask somebody in Portugal with regards to how long is it going to take for such and such, the answer is shrug.
Depends.
You know, it's this.
Yeah.
You know, so and it's genuine because they don't know.
Yeah.
They really don't know, and it's because everyone's depending on everybody else. I'm depending on him to do this. I'm depending on this person to do that. So they really don't know, and
I'd like everybody thinks somebody's doing something.
it's
And
not only
that's
that, they're waiting for the next person to pass on to them while I'm still waiting on him. Like, even from a planning from a point of view of something like this, you have to bring the electric companies together, the gas companies, and all these different technical documents have to be submitted to the camera, and then they all have to be looked at, they all have to be checked, and so on and so forth. And it's all fine, but how would you say, we end up chasing all the separate entities to make sure they're doing what they're doing, to get it to that person, and then they say they've done it, and then you go in and say, no, well, you haven't received it yet, and it gets very frustrating.
I can imagine. And how have you managed that on a personal level, that level of frustration?
I actually had to take in another person to deal with that, the frustration part.
A buffer.
Yeah. A buffer, basically.
A human buffer.
Yeah, but yeah, it's part of it. You have to have. So we've basically taken on a big project management company here, a company called Oyster, and they're 30 years in business here in Portugal, and they're used to dealing with the cameras and with the contractors and the subcontractors and so on and so forth. So they can sort of maneuver their way a lot easier, say, for people than, let's say, people like myself. But it's still not an easy process.
No, I can understand that, and that's the practical and pragmatic approach. And that, I mean, in my understanding and observation of you are. Your key skill is problem solving. Would you agree? That's you eat problems for breakfast, and you get stuff done here.
It's the only way. You have to sort of soldier through it, you know. But like how would you say? It can be lucky and you can be unlucky, and I'll explain.
Go on.
When we bought one particular building in Lisbon, 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, we sold it actually pretty quickly, and then they changed the planning. And it's took us 5 years to get the planning sorted out in that, and we couldn't start construction for 5 years after selling it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So basically, we had to refund a lot of people their money, and still continue to build a smaller development than what we were looking for in the start, which is fine. But it was just taking so long to do it. But we've lost money on that project because of the length of time that it took us. But for example, on other lands that we have purchased, the value has increased substantially because of COVID and so on and so forth, and because there hadn't been any work previous to the planning done, the values of those lands have actually risen up. So you can be lucky in a little bit of as a speculator with time, with land increasing and properties increasing, but then the big risk on this sort of gap time frame, just 3 to 5 years, is what happens to the market. You know, what can happen in the market, what can happen with confidence in the market, and when you're looking at most things, I'm talking about properties, and properties is jobs. Confidence in the government is one big thing. It's a huge thing, and sustainability, and basically, as I said, having that stability within a government that has a plan from a point of view of local housing and incentivizing developers to develop for the demand, and helping to get through that bureaucracy as quickly as possible, and then also incentivizing people who want to buy houses, and they can do it, and it's been done in other countries already, and it sort of seems to don't look at successes in other places.
Well, I'm hoping this morning we can play some small part in changing the direction of that travel, and this is an invitation really to people who might want to be in some sort of panel, roundtable, think tank would be another way of putting it, to bring that sort of awareness from these other countries. I mean, like you say, there are examples of how this can be turned around. So just to recap then, so I understand it and how I can present this to our wonderful audience and community here. How you see it is that the politicians don't have a clear vision, or don't appear to have a clear vision, and then from an external perspective, when it comes to investors and global confidence in Portugal, that's a big shot in the foot.
Well, the one thing that especially larger investors will look at is the political stability in a country. because they're gambling. An investment is a gamble.
Yeah.
And when you're gambling, you look at, like, what's the movable things that can change the dynamic of my investment. And the number one thing is the political situation.
Yes.
And if the political situation is, let's say, even unsecure or unknown, that's not a good thing.
No, it's not, is it? And so they need to step up and provide that, because I mean, I suppose you could say the government and the society here has been very fortunate and trading on its global reputation of a peaceful, secure place to be, relatively low corruption, relatively stable politically. But that's changed, hasn't it, in the last year? And that's causing, you're saying, some doubt around the world.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like, we deal mainly with investors. Since I've come here 10 years ago, majority of the people I dealt with were international investors. And how would you say, they've made massive differences to people who live and work in Portugal, and because they've invested so much money. Because when the Golden Visa part was brought in, and the NHR, non-habitual tax residency, it invited people to come to Portugal and to invest in Portugal, and it outlined sort of a roadmap of what you got in return for investing in that. And this was huge. This was a massive, how would you say, it was a plan that was well thought out, and it did a great job over the period that it had done. And it changed it in certain ways to try and suit the political dynamic as it changed, to try and get investment into other areas and so on and so forth. But I think even they were rushed. They weren't thought about, as in the consequences of when you invent something new. In other words, you say, let's get them to invest in this area. What happens is people create product to match a market rather than create product that's required.
Okay.
So, for example, you had people buying old buildings that were over 30 years old, that were making 15 square meter rooms in it and charging 280,000 euros because that's what qualified for the Golden Visa in this particular area. And
not necessarily the best idea, but one that suited what was available and how they could get into the country.
Exactly.
Right.
And it was that now they created a product that allowed you to apply for a Golden Visa.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really a product that was required in that area.
Yeah.
And now when they called an end to the Golden Visa in February, there was a lot of companies had invested huge amounts of money in the likes of Evra and around Evra in such projects, which, to be honest with you, I don't think there were good projects to start with.
Yeah.
But now it's not going anywhere. Those projects will never go anywhere.
Ouch.
What I believe they should have done was they should have asked people to invest in local housing projects.
Yeah.
And had from the requirement of what that area needed, and basically incentivize people to buy in this area for local housing requirement. And this is exactly what they did in Ireland. In Ireland, you had to do your Golden Visa, if you like, through a government-approved development that would supply local housing. And that was it.
And create positive social impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they were giving away free houses the government were giving away free houses. The people were still buying the houses, but now buying houses that were required, and they were getting investment from foreigners to help alleviate the issues that were at hand in the local markets. But and I think actually that's where the answer should lie, even still today. With regards to the housing crisis, I think that if they actually sit down and think about how do we incentivize people to buy houses, and put confidence into the housing market, because another big question now is interest rates and inflation and so on and so forth.
And the global picture,
exactly,
yeah,
and they all have to be taken into account. But this is that property goes up and down, up and down, up and down. This is not going to last forever. The inflation thing is not going to last forever. Interest rates are not going to keep going up, 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 up. They will come back down as soon as things stabilize again. But regardless, you still have to plan for that in the future as well. So you plan today, the interest rates might go down in 2 years or a year or whatever it is, but in 3 or 4 years they'll go up again as well for some next thing, history repeating itself, or certainly rhyming. So you can't plan for today only. You have to plan in the long term. And I think what they have to do there is to give tax incentives, and when I keep saying tax incentives and tax credits, and it's not that they're giving away things for free. Basically, they're kicking the tax down the road. So, for example, a young couple after buying a house, their first home or whatever it is, and let's say the house is 300,000 euros, they get a tax credit from the government over a 10-year period, which could be something like 40% of what they would pay in tax. They just get a 40% discount off it because they've bought this house. Similar to the way a pension schemes used to work years ago, is in that when you've done a pension, if you saved 100 euros, you didn't pay tax on 50% of it or 40% of it. So you were actually being incentivized to save for your own future.
Yep.
It should be the same for your house. You should be incentivized to buy your own house.
And there's nothing like that.
Not that I'm aware
No
of.
thinking of that kind.
Not that I'm aware
I mean,
of.
their timescales are different, aren't they? Politicians don't tend to. I mean, they'll say they think long term, but really they need to be thinking about being re-elected. So their time scale will be according to the political time frame, 5 years, possibly.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that I think sense will prevail eventually, and we'll actually sit down and come up with good ideas. Like I know, like I've come from Ireland where we had a huge housing crisis as well.
Yeah.
And Ireland went from the top country in Europe, as in growth and so on, to the worst.
Yeah.
In a period of 2 years. But then turned it around in the next 3 years and went to the top again.
Yes.
So because people sat down and had to basically come together and think about how do we fix these.
Well, that's our invitation today, really, isn't it? I think it's certainly my invitation. Good morning, Portugal. Inspired by what you're doing here on a local level. I think you've proved yourself and your ethics and credibility with what you do. I think your insight and analysis of the situation makes a lot of sense. That there is a short-term thinking, and clearly, if you look at the golden visa and how it's been portrayed, it's a political football. So you had these products created that ultimately they were adapted to suit what was possible. They turned out to be not very good, and then the government could say, "Look, we're going to get rid of it because they're not very good products." And they created the environment in which those products were created in the first place. So we need some bigger thinking. I think we need some broader thinking, don't we? And different kinds of disciplines, mindsets on that think tank or that panel. Who would you choose to be alongside you as an advisor to the Portuguese government? I mean, is there any sort of progressive or in the most positive way thinking
Elon
going
Musk.
on? Well, if we can get an hour of his time over here, you like the cut of his jib, do you, and the way he's thinking?
I think he's a great, but he's also a little bit nuts. But I think
it often goes together, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
But I mean, we could ask our community as well. Who should be on this? Well, it resonates with what you said before. You've come to south of the river here to show the people who live here what a treasure they've got.
Yeah.
And they've said, "Oh yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. Let's do it." The whole country could do with that, couldn't it? With some foreign eyes, the innocents abroad as we are, some of us not so innocent, but who am I to judge? But those fresh eyes in this country and different ideas like yourself brought from the experience that you saw in Ireland. Who else could we have on this think tank, on this panel together? Let's host this discussion, and with respect and deference to our hosts here who make us very comfortable in this incredible country, offer that information and that insight to them.
Yeah, I think it should come from all sectors, to be honest with you. And I think people who are the ones that are probably the most important are the people who are looking to buy the houses. In other words, what would help them?
Yeah.
What do they need? Yeah. To basically inspire them, to help them, to encourage them to buy their own home. Yeah.
Well, that's what a great. I mean, it's back to basics, isn't it? That is the impulse, the first impulse, isn't it?
And I'm sure they have something similar here as well. But like in Ireland, we had a thing where the government would help people with their first mortgage and things like this, to help them to get onto that property ladder. That was always the biggest step on the property ladder, was the first one,
And it's a basic building block of a stable society. Going back to a stable society and politics, to give people that would be pretty smart, a smart move, right?
Well, if I was in power, for example, and I'm trying to get elected, it's trying to make as many people happy as possible.
Yes.
And I think by helping people's kids, for example, get onto that property ladder by bringing in positive political decisions and structures that sort of benefited local population
Yeah.
in getting into housing, I'd be very happy to vote for that guy again.
Sounds radical, but it's just so basic, isn't it?
It is very basic, and actually, it's not rocket science. It
It's
really isn't.
not, is
We
it?
don't need Elon Musk.
Okay, all right. We're withdrawing that offer to you, Elon. We've got this. We've got this. Amazing. So, who else can we think of that would make an exciting and interesting panel? The other thing I think to suggest possibly to our hosts here is that you're not about undermining them, are you? You want to help this country. You want to help them. And the pickle that they're in with these sort of protracted, unnecessarily prolonged planning processes aren't good for anybody, are they? And it's not like we want to take their jobs away. Their jobs could be so much better, couldn't they? If things got a little bit more redesigned and efficient.
I would say it's probably not an easy job to refix it or to redo it, because it's so historical.
Yes.
And it is very historical, and I don't want to sound like I'm coming over telling people, you should do it this way because we know better than you do, but it's not that.
Yeah.
It's experience that's brought us to a point that it's sort of, we started to understand where the issues are, and how to fix it. I'm not 100% sure, as in the bureaucracy side of it, because there is a lot of bureaucracy in it, and for a good reason, if you know what I mean. There's all these things, these technical documents and everything, they need to gather all this information. But I do know that some of the cameras right now are actually, they're trying to speed up their processes by digitalizing everything.
Okay.
So like it's sort of a tick box. You need this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Give me that, and so on, and then you get your planning.
Signs of hope. Signs of hope.
It is, and I think it's just, and it's people as well. So it's, you've got people that are, how would you say, that they're in these jobs for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And they're set in the ways of how to do things as well. So, but I'm hoping that they could bring out some new ideas, because we need the investment.
We do, and this lack of confidence that is growing, and an idea that Portugal might not be a safe place to invest in. I'm not sure it's as true as some people might feel, but we need to address it. It needs to be addressed.
It is a great place to invest.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And like, if you as an investor here, you look at the prices of properties in Portugal. I know people in Portugal think they're expensive, but spread it across Europe, as in a European price point, properties in Portugal are still very, very affordable. And it's the wage gap that's the difference.
Yeah.
And what they really need to do is to sort out the wage gap.
Yeah, so true, so that people can afford to buy their own houses.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you, Bobby. Great talking to you. Are you all right for a little bit longer to answer a couple of questions?
Sure.
Here? Fantastic.
Sure.
Okay. Matty is reminding me he's such a stickler for timing. I don't know why that is, but I have my ideas. Question: With all these, you got for the Herdade. How difficult, I think you might have typed this hastily, but how difficult or easy was it to get all the needed licenses, permissions, and what did they cost? Ballpark, not exact. That's a bit personal and private, isn't it? But I suppose the gist of the question is, and you've kind of referred to it already. It's not been an easy process, but it hasn't stopped you.
No, it hasn't. No, you when you make an investment like this, you have to continue and go through it. I won't say it was difficult. It was long. It was long,
right?
But there are steps there you have to follow, and when
Yeah.
you follow the steps, it should move along quicker. And how would you say, we're learning as well on how to
Yes.
make things go quicker as well.
Yeah.
How to make sure we have the right people in place from the start, not from the end. You know, the kind of way. So had we hired in this project management company 2 years ago, we would have been probably a lot further along than we were, because we were naive in certain parts of it as well.
Sure.
So as with regards to cost, when you get planning permission for something like this, you pay a huge tax.
Right.
They don't give it to you for free.
Which, funnily enough, is the politicians' wages, is it not?
Well, actually,
Do you think they might listen to you?
It goes into the coffers of the municipality. It's a camera.
Okay.
And I have to say, the Seychelles camera have been fantastic. They
Great.
really have.
Good to hear it. Good to hear it. All right. Well, that's great. And so that gives you an idea there, Matty, without getting the accounts out and giving you showing the invoices. Dougie is here as well, one of our co-hosts, a writer for
Hi,
the
Doug.
Portugal News. You've met Doug, of course.
Yeah,
haven't you?
yeah.
I spent my whole career building and indeed selling new houses, some of which were holiday homes in Wales. They had to be fireproofed at a certain time, didn't they? Those holiday homes in Wales. And I just heard you both say it's boom and bust in property. I mean, that's a reference to the cycles that the obvious cycles of being in property development, right?
The usual story was we had 7-year cycles and 5-year memories. So
Yes, very good. Carl Hyde saying, welcoming me back to his manor. Well, or welcome back to my neighbourhood, Carl. Looking sharp today. Thank you very much, Carl.
Hi, Carl.
From one Carl to another. And he has a question. Are there any, or will there be any finance partners that can help people get a mortgage to purchase at Herdade Do Meio? So addressing that and affordability and let's say a family wanting to buy a home, how is that a possibility here?
A very good point is just to go on to that is that we've had about 5,000. I would, and I'm guessing now it could be 6,000 or something, but people that have inquired about financing options and how much are they and so on and so forth. And what we found within the banks is that some of the banks will give pre-approval of the loan of a mortgage, but providing the property will finish within the 24 months of the CPCV, of the promissory contract.
Yeah.
And they'll give 30% up front. So subject to your being shown the capacity to repay the loan, and the usual bits and pieces that they look for when they're giving out mortgages, the banks will borrow up to 90% in total and 30% up front of the purchase price of the house, provided it's 24 months to complete. On this project here, we're about 28 months out still. So what we will be doing is, when we're in the 24-month time gap, we will actually have a financing broker here on site as well, but also that can contact people by Zoom. They're doing a lot of Zoom. They're actually based in Algarve, but it's a broker company, and they'll do all the stuff over Zoom call, talk to the people to see how they qualify, explain all the how would you say, the P's and Q's,
the nuts and bolts of it. Yeah,
exactly. So and they do that all over Zoom, and then they can apply for a mortgage, and then if they get the mortgage, they can then put down, and we're doing a special deal for the local Portuguese market, where it's 10% on the promissory contract and the CPCV, and then there's a 30% from the bank reinforcement later. So it's only 10% on the CPCV on the promissory contract for Portuguese who are buying, and then the remainder on completion. So it's only a 10, 30, 60.
Okay.
And that should make it easier for the local market to buy.
There is an answer to your question there, Carl Hyde. And yeah, I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? You've got to have a meeting in the Algarve with those people face to face.
No, they'll actually come here.
Wow. But I'm thinking, people, there might be an argument over it. No, we'll come to the Algarve. No, we'll come up to Seychelles. Either way, it's going to be great, isn't it? So there you go, Carl. Answer to your question. Thank you, T-Duck. Smash that like button. Like that smash button. Oh, look at this. Somewhat possibly an eggy comment here, Bobby. If they fix the wage gap, most NAs and North Americans and Northern Europeans wouldn't be here. Okay, that's a fair point. Portuguese would be buying their own homes, and we'd be traveling to Moldova, finding something to complain about. Now, that's a rather jaundiced and cynical way of putting it, but that's progress as well, isn't it? That's what happens.
But I think, look, this is a big conversation, and I would say that in parts he has a good point there.
Yeah.
But if we go back to, again, I can only go back to Ireland. I remember, like, my dad, when I was a kid, my father worked for €80 or £80 it was a week when I was like 12, 13 years of age. It's not that anymore. You know what I mean? But it obviously, but the country itself has to grow up, and so the salaries have to grow up. But I think also the social security part of and how people are paid here, it's a little bit misleading. And I'll explain it. And if someone says, "Oh, I'm on €1,000. I'm only on €1,000 a month," they're actually on nearly €1,500 a month. It's just that because the taxes and the social security are normally paid by the employer.
Yes, yeah.
And
the hidden costs.
The hidden costs, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's that part of it. And actually, again, I think how they work that system, it decentivizes employers from employing people.
Of course it does, no question.
Because I think it's something like 34% on top of what someone is paid. Yeah. You also have to pay to the government because you have your part of the social security, their part of the social security, plus the taxes and so on as well.
12, not 40 months. Yeah, 40 months a year as well, isn't
14 months, and then all the holidays and so on. Yeah. And then basically as well, the rules around employment. If you want to let somebody go because they haven't performed or whatever it is, you have to pay the compensation and things like this. So they might think it's great to have all these protections for their for the workers here.
Yeah.
But actually, it goes against the grain of people wanting to hire them
Yeah.
because they're so much tied into rules that they're locked into. In one of the projects that they brought out with the golden visa was that if you hired 10 people, if you created a company and hired 10 people, we'll give you a golden visa.
Yeah.
No one did it
For some reason.
because they looked at the rules around hiring 10 people.
So, no, it's all right. I'll just buy somewhere.
Yeah,
Thank you very
exactly.
much.
So, but the thing is, if they had, I'm not saying that you should be able to hire and fire at willy-nilly, but
It's about balance, isn't it?
it's absolutely. And I think this is one thing that's held the wage gap from rising up. It's the structure of how it's done.
Yeah.
And they also allow people to do the green receipts. So the green receipt here is basically where somebody gives you an invoice, a legal invoice, which is registered with the government. And most people in this country, I think, are probably hired nearly on green receipt. Why? Because it protects the employer in the sense that if the person doesn't perform or has an issue with
No more invoices.
exactly no
Yeah.
invoices, and that's why it's done that way.
Yeah.
But the government then also recognise that you're hiring this guy as a job, and this is how you're paying him. So for that reason, you'll pay an extra 5% tax on that.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It needs addressing, no question. And it's also the reason why people don't start businesses, all the hidden costs and things you don't realise.
And the
as well,
bureaucracy.
and the bureaucracy. So these things do need addressing. Point taken there, Facebook user. FU, I'll refer to you for short. It's a true story. FU, Facebook user. But if they fix the wage gap, most North Americans and Northern Europeans wouldn't be here.
I don't either, to be honest with you, because I don't think a lot of people are just coming here because it's cheap.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yes.
For me, it's probably the best place on the planet to live, and that's hard to say as an Irishman.
I hope they're not listening back home, Bobby.
But actually, I've told them. I've sort of come to this conclusion. I don't know why they don't all move here, you know, that kind of way. So, but it is
Ireland with sun.
It is. It's beautiful. Like I have
Yeah.
a friend here at the moment. He's buzzing around there somewhere, and he's just
He's
beaming.
a great
since he
lad. I met
arrived.
him. Yeah. Yeah.
So, he's like, this is incredible. This
Yep.
is incredible. That's all he said since he come here. But that's the truth. It is incredible.
Mm.
And how would you say? We have a lot of people coming here. The fact that how would you say cost of living here for people who come from, say, countries where the cost of living is much higher,
Yeah.
it is an advantage. But it's not
It's
the
not
reason.
the only thing,
No,
is it? Because
absolutely
people
not.
go home. If that were true, people wouldn't go home, would they? And they do, because
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are things they can't cope with outside of the better cost of living, as it were, or the more competitive.
I think it's quality of life here is why people come.
Yeah.
It's the quality of life. And Portugal has supplied some, like the number one thing, when people actually, there's two things that people ask me about. What's the best thing about Portugal? The first thing is the people.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're genuine, and they're straight, and it's not pretense, you know, and they're really lovely people, except when they get in their cars.
Mhm.
In their cars, they become psychopaths.
Yes, that is the one place, isn't it, where the character is allowed to express its shadow side,
Yeah.
its dark side, the Portuguese character. Yeah.
But it is genuinely where's the weather?
Yeah.
The climate is just fantastic. Then of course you have all the other little bells and whistles, the food and so on, the beaches and all that kind of stuff. But the first thing is the people.
It is. It's so true. Have you been to Moldova?
No.
Right, okay. Interesting. Well, thank you for that talking point there. Let's move on to Baddy, who's here as well this morning in central Portugal. Can anyone be in touch with the broker in question, or is it exclusively for these projects? I'm sure we can connect you, Baddy. Drop me a line. Bobby, I remember the 7-year cycle, says Doug. That applied to us too. We often paused our building program, as in build fewer, rather than plow ahead regardless. So a known phenomenon. Can I suggest, he says, he continues, that if wages soar, so will inflation, including house price inflation. People often feel their wages are too far behind their aspirations. Again, it's about balance, isn't it? You've got to get that biting point right.
Exactly. And there's the political part of it as well. So like that's where the balance has to come in from cost of construction and so on. The reason, you know why construction costs are so high? Because there's not enough construction companies. You know why there's not enough construction companies?
Okay.
They're driving the market because basically they can pick and choose their jobs as they want.
Yeah.
But what happens is when fewer people are building, then the construction companies drop.
Mm-hmm.
There's no massive construction companies left in Portugal because they just don't have enough. You have big companies, but they're not huge companies.
Okay. All right. And that controls the pricing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not
Interesting.
only just only those, they're subcontractors as well. So like you've got a contractor who'll come in and say, okay, I'll take on this job, but he also has to bring in subcontractors, and those subcontractors also have that choice. I can come and work for you for this price, or I'll go work for that guy.
Driving up the costs.
So, but that's because there's not enough of them.
Yes. So that could be another angle on this, is to train and keep Portuguese builders.
Absolutely.
And
And
they
professionals.
are some of the best in the world. Let's face it.
Yeah,
When you hear about, central Portugal and build quality and what people find they can build to such a high standard, it's amazing. It's here, isn't it?
Yeah.
The teachers are here.
Yep.
Whether or not the students are is a matter of political will, it would seem.
And that comes down to salaries again.
It does, doesn't it? It's a cycle, a circle of life, quality of life. Well said, but you also need to be open for it and enjoy it, not trying to change to be more like where you came from.
Absolutely.
Again, see, I've long struggled with this. I don't want to sound like a sour expat foreigner immigrant saying, you should do it like this. But again, it's about balance, isn't it? There are some good ideas that
That's
could
it.
be, yeah.
The thing is, there was actually a great program a great film by Michael Moore, and it's called Where to Invade Next.
Yes.
And
Talking about American foreign policy, possibly.
well, basically what he was talking about was it was about invading 10 different countries,
Yeah.
but for their ideas.
Okay.
To what worked well in different countries, and let's
Oh.
bring them back to the States. This is what he was doing.
Okay.
And it was very, very, very witty the way it was done.
Yeah.
And actually, he came to Portugal, and one of the things he said, and he went to 10 different countries. One of them was Portugal, and it was their drug program.
Oh yes, yeah.
That he wanted to bring. Where it comes to this as well. So you have
Keep doing it,
But
because
don't-
that is a definition of insanity, isn't it?
exactly, but don't or else. You
Yeah.
understand me?
Yeah, yeah.
Is in that we're not going to do.
Well, I think we're back now. I better let you go, Bobby. I mean,
Yeah.
we did talk to each other earlier on, and what we're going to talk about today seems like we've done okay. I think. I meant something. What's this? Something like Germans going to Ibiza or Mallorca, but insist on having Wiener Schnitzel in each restaurant. Yeah, don't want that. Victoria Benson, also very difficult to find workers to do construction work. It's hard, and young folks don't want this type of work, especially in the Algarve when they can get easy tourism jobs. Yep, another factor there. Well said. There is a connection issue, but I think we're back now, and it remains for me to say, Bobby, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Here, it's going well by the sound of it. I can
Yeah,
see drainage being put into the
Yeah.
ground. It's changed since I was last here. You're doing a fantastic job here, and the lovely team who you've got here at Herdade Do Meio. You can find out more about it at herdadedomeo.pt and .com. I think it's on all the domains, is it not?
Yeah.
To find out more about this fantastic project, community and sustainability. Love those ethics that are driving here, and good luck with the next ones, because
Yeah.
everything you're learning here will be inbuilt, won't it?
We're always learning.
Yeah, always learning.
learning.
And so have a great day today with
Thanks very
the
much.
with the Portuguese media
Yeah.
as well. And great to see you. So thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Ciao,
Take
ciao.
care.
All
Ciao,
right,
ciao.
so I'm gonna myself back onto the screen there so you can see who's talking here, rather than a voice in the ether. What's this, Carl? Your single screen. Oh, you're single screen now, and you're not on it. Well, I am now, and maybe we lost the sound there. So we're back again now. 913-590-303. If you want to give us a buzz, talking about fire prevention. Let me just play the intro, and we'll come back and tell you what we were thinking from yesterday and see how you can add to the conversation. Here we go. We are live from Herdade Do Meio, south of the river here in Lisbon. Amazing community that's being built here of homes. Probably said 70 homes, I think, in Sejal, and 15-20 minutes away from the capital. You can live. Picked up, you can see the flags moving. We might have some connectivity issues at this stage. More people are arriving here and going onto the Wi-Fi here, so bear with. But the conversation that was suggested from yesterday from Lord Gilchrist, who's been phoning in, was that we talk about fire safety with the and drought. They go together, don't they? We're in April here in Portugal. Let me just change the backdrop for a minute so you can see who you're dealing with here. Look, Iberian FM is what we're doing now. And you can call in. It's a phone in, but it's also possible to carry on talking in the chat as well. Some of you stay for this, some of you don't. For those of you who are here and want to stay with us, yes, the talking point today is about the fact that we're in April, and in Portuguese they say em abril or em abril d'águas mil. So there's supposed to be a lot of water and rain in April, but here on the 19th of April, we haven't had much. We've got 11 days left to have a bit of a downpour and replenish those reservoirs and reduce the risk of wildfires, of course, as well. At the same time, the drier and hotter it gets, the more risk there is for wildfires here in Portugal, which, of course, remain a serious challenge for the country. We had a horrible wake-up call in 2017, where sadly quite a number of people perished in 2017. And it was quite the the wake-up call, the alert to tackle and address this in the best way possible. And I think it's fair to say that is what's happening here in Portugal. But it doesn't help that we haven't had any rain for a long time. Traditionally, that would come in the last winter of 2022. The reservoirs seemed to be replenished and refilled, and we were out of drought, so to speak, which is out of drought in 2022 with all that rain that came in the winter, and all looked dandy for 2023. However, not much rain this spring. The reservoirs, I think, are dropping. We are heading towards possible drought conditions again, and of course the fire risk that brings. So fogos.pt is a great resource. If you are, well, there are two. There's IPMA, IPMA.pt, which is the weather forecasting, the government's weather forecasting and all other sort of climatic conditions website, IPMA.pt. A bit difficult for me to type these things in today. Perhaps somebody could assist with that. Antonio F. I'm sure we'll have something to say. If you could help us with IPMA and fogos.pt. IPMA will tell you the likelihood, I think, of wildfires. And Fogos tells you what's happening. Fogos.pt tells you what's happening when fires are in action and what state they're in, whether they've just started, whether the fire crews are attending, whether they've managed to put it out, and so on. So two very important resources: IPMA, IPMA.pt, and Fogos.pt, Fogos.pt. First comments coming in about that. We have made videos about fire safety. If you live in a high risk area, definitely have a grab bag, bug out bag, think our head gardener Lee McGrady calls it. Have an emergency. Be ready, be prepared, as Nuno, I'm sure, would tell us from Insurance, the Boy Scout, the Man Scout would tell you, be ready. Have a bag with a change of clothes, your mobile's fully charged, have water in there as well. We've made videos about this, and you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out what you need to put in your emergency grab bag. However, it's quite good to do a research online, watch our earlier videos, to pick up on some of the things you might have forgotten or are not immediately obvious. Thank you very much, Antonio F, for coming to my help here, and my assistance. Fogosh for fire warning, and IPMA for weather. There you go. Attempt to bring it onto the screen anyway. Antonio's other message for us. Desperately clicking buttons here, but nothing's happening. We might have another freeze on our hands. So I think we're back now. Okay, yes, it's April, but because of the hot weather, wildfires have already started really early. So that's not a good thing to hear this morning. Yes, Antonio, says Matty, but I think that you're talking about. That's another interesting aspect of this conversation, the homeowner's responsibility. Let me just bring the laptop around so I can get a better access to it. There we go. The clearing responsibility. Make sure that your garden, the surrounding areas of your home are not literally some kind of tinderbox. So you've got to keep it trimmed and create fire breaks where necessary if you have a big piece of land. So get up to speed on that as well. The Fogosh, is this different? The Fogodis, I think that is Fogosh we're talking about. Their app can be scary and even eye-watering if you have it set to give notifications. I didn't know you could do that. Your sound is missing on occasion. So, okay, we're up against it a little bit here. We might have to call it, cut it short this morning. But, Iberian FM, we're here every day, every weekday to have a conversation regular on the phone in Lord Gilchrist. And if he calls in today, it might just break the internet completely for us today. So maybe we'll leave it there with a little bit of a warning, a little bit of a heads up, really, on as Antonio is saying here for us. Yes, it's April, but because of the hot weather, wildfires have already started really early. So there is that problem. We are approaching possible drought conditions with the lack of rain. And I do wonder, with the reservoirs, are we looking at ancient infrastructure? Do we need to look at other ways? I mean, there's a general sort of resilience point here, isn't there? That in a time where people are looking towards governments that are persistently failing, perhaps, in their duties and responsibilities, or what we assume they might be doing, they're under tremendous pressure, as people are generally. Politicians, local government are humans too. Is the infrastructure right? Are the reservoirs that were built to serve this society and societies all around the world were built in different times, weren't they, with different conditions? Is there anything else we might be doing? Are there any progressive drought management engineers in our community that might wish to speak on that, or do you know of any research about that? I think it makes a lot of sense to create your own water storage, and I was going to call it water retention. That's not what you want, is it? But certainly we don't do much rainwater harvesting. Homes don't tend to be set up. We have become very dependent, have we not, on the local camera to provide, and the local authority to provide water via pipe. And it's all been fine and dandy, hasn't it, until recently? Costs are rising, infrastructure might be breaking down. So, why not get some of those, are they called IBC tanks? That you can stick outside in the yard, maybe get a water butt if you like big butts and you cannot lie. Why a water butt? Big water butt to store your water in and be ahead of the game. I'm glad to have been able to mention to you IPMA and Fogosh.pt, so you can be prepared. Get that grab bag sorted out if you live in a high risk area. And conversation will continue about what's happening in the reservoirs. We know that Garvo in Alvázora in central Portugal has been sending us pictures of his local reservoir. he was quite glad to see it being topped up over the winter. How's it looking at the moment, Garvo, if you tuned in this morning? And yeah, let us know in your locality. Is a local reservoir where you may go for a walk looking a little bit diminished at the moment? And are you prepared? I saw the Bombeiros on a shout this morning, even here, not far from the capital this morning. So things are happening. Get that Fogos.pt app on your phone so you know what's going on around you. I intend to set up my house, now currently a ruin, to collect rainwater as much as possible and use it to irrigate the garden and fields. It's a good move, Matty, for sure. And why don't you share your blueprints and your designs with us? As more people do that, I think we're going to need help. Just like I was trying to make a solar shower the other day. And when I posted the pictures up of it on Facebook, people were really helpful with their ideas from other cultures. Like we're talking about with Bobby, you know. Great ideas are available from all around the world, from different cultures, and they can be put into place. If it's a good idea, if it works, as Bobby said. You get, what's this, Lord Gilchrist? You've got a river. Why bother to collect rainwater? That's typical, that is, of the modern way of thinking. You got to learn something about redundancy, haven't you? And not to be reliant on one system. Are these times not teaching us that we can be over reliant on a single source to have our eggs in one basket? I think having a number of sources of anything in life is preferable to relying on just one source, right? Unless water, says Matty. Yep, because you can never have too much water. Yes, you can. Okay, I think we've got to that particular stage where they're ding-donging in the chat. Yes, Carl, always have a backup. Did I do that this morning? Yes. We could have plugged in here, but we're on a battery this morning on our fantastic setup. I will take a photo of it for those nerdy types who like to see our setup. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Thanks to Bobby for chatting with us earlier on. Really enjoyed that chat, and we will move forward, I hope, with a think tank or a round table of people who have, I was going to say original ideas. They're perhaps some old ideas, some old truths that people are bringing from their own personal experience and being presented in a new and fresh and original way in the new culture, which we hope will be helpful. So have a great day. I'll leave it there for today. We'll be tomorrow. And of course, we'll have the man who was here earlier on, Carl Hyde, the Englishman in Lisbon, and we'll have Veronica, the American in the Algarve, chatting with us tomorrow. Looking forward to that. So be back at base tomorrow morning. See you then, and I'll give you the Good Morning Portugal theme tune just to play you out today and send you on your way. Have a great day today, and see you in the morning. Take care. Bye for now.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.